Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Christian McBride, host of Jazz Night in America, and I am so happy to be speaking with one of my heroes. I've said this many, many times, but if I were to build my own Mount Rushmore of great bass players, this man would probably be the last head on that monument. The great Marcus Miller, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, man. How you doing, man? Thank you. How you feeling?
I feel good, man. How about yourself?
Everything's good, man. Trying to stay positive through the craziness.
Yeah, dig it, dig it. In a few minutes, we're going to revisit your Electric Miles concert that you did at Jazz and Lincoln Center some time ago. But before we get into that, I never get tired of hearing about your journey and all that you've accomplished in your career, with specific regard to Miles Davis. I love the story about your first, I believe it was your first session with Miles, and Miles just had you kind of repeat this one bass line over and over again,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he kept messing with you.
yeah.
Tell me that story.
I guess he had just decided to come out of retirement. I think Dr. George Butler. Did you ever get to meet Dr. George Butler?
I did.
Okay,
Yep.
so you know Dr. George Butler, who was VP of Jazz at Columbia Records, had been working on Miles to pull him out of retirement. He had been retired since like 76 and now it's 81. He finally decided to go in the studio. So I got a call from Miles. It was a message for a studio receptionist. I was doing a session for somebody, and it said call Miles, and I called him, and he invited me to a session like 2 hours later at Columbia Studios. So I had heard rumors that he was going to make a comeback, but they were just rumors. All of a sudden, this is him on the phone. It was unmistakably him. He was cursing at me. He was doing the whole thing. So I was like, wow. So I went to the studio because I was already on a session. So I walked to the studio. That's the thing about New York. All the studios are within walking distance
Right.
in that Times Square area. Anyway, I walked over to the famous Columbia Studios and waited, and he finally showed up. And I introduced myself. I told him I was a cousin of a guy who used to play piano with him, Wynton Kelly, thinking that might break the ice. He didn't give a shit. So anyway, he said, "This is how the song goes," and he played F sharp and G, and I'm waiting for the rest. He said, "Okay." I said, "That's it." He said, "Yeah, man, that's it." Okay. Like within the first 15 minutes, all the stuff I heard about Miles, I realized was true. You know what I mean? So anyway, the rest of the band showed up: Al Foster, guitarist Barry Finnerty, Sammy Figueroa percussion, and Bill Evans on saxophone. And we started playing. And Al hit the beat, and I was hitting that F sharp and G. So he stops the band because I'm the new guy. I guess all the other guys had been around for a little bit. And he stops the band and says, "That's all you're gonna play? F sharp G?" I said, "Oh, okay." So the next take, I played a whole bunch of stuff, man. I was all over the boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And he stopped the band again and said, "What the hell are you doing? Just play F sharp G and shut up, man." So I was like, "Oh, okay." Now, I don't know about you, but when I was coming up in Jamaica, Queens, I'm sure they had these kind of cats in Philly. There's always some Miles Davis wannabes.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
So if you're in their band, when you're coming up, they're always giving you conflicting directions
Yes,
just to mess with you to
yes,
see
yes.
how you're gonna deal with it. You know what I mean? So I play with enough like junior varsity Miles Davises to realize, okay, he's just messing with me. So I need to close my eyes and just ignore him and do my thing. Play F sharp G when I think that's appropriate. Throw some other sauce in there when I think that's appropriate. So that's what I did.
Right.
And he let us go through the whole take. And at the end of the take, he said, "Y'all play like a bunch of sissies." And he walked out the door. He didn't say sissies, by the way, but
You're
he,
right.
he walked out the door. But I was sitting at the door at the exit, right next to the exit. So when he walked by me, he said, and I said, "All right, all right." I made it through phase one. And that album became an album called The Man with the Horn. And we had done
Right.
about 4 or 5 cuts for that album. And Miles was back, and he
Yeah.
invited me to be in the band. And that was my beginning of my relationship. Stayed in his band for a couple of years, then left to develop more as a composer and a producer. I told him I want to, broaden what I'm doing, and he gave me his blessing, which was really nice because it could have been real bad telling Miles you wanted to leave. And
Now,
so,
two questions I want to ask you. When you tell that great story about how Miles was messing with you at that first session, being the new bass player and you working it out, did he also mess with you that same way when you started producing him? Like, now you're Marcus Miller, the producer, or did he have a certain level of trust and respect for you by that point not to mess with you?
The vibe when I came back with music that I'd written for him and was arranging the stuff was it was like it was like your father seeing you become a man, right?
Mm.
It was pride. He was like, "Go on, Marcus." That's what he
Oh,
would
that's
say.
great.
You know what I
That's
mean?
great.
It was like, "Man, keep writing, man. You're in a creative period." I told Wayne this. Keep writing. Right now, write everything. You just keep writing. He was so proud. You know what I mean? And then
That's
if we
great.
were like taking a cab from the studio and the radio's on, some record would come on like a Janet Jackson record. Man, what makes it sound like that? And I said, well, first, there's no snare drum, there's no backbeat. It's just claps.
Right.
He's, oh wow, man. Yeah, write me something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
he had that curiosity, man. And I think when I say he didn't change, he always had that curiosity, man, like that child, like, what is that? Oh, I want some of that. Through his whole life. It started when he first heard Bird and Diz, but it went all the way through to the 80s when when I was working with him.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. How did it feel playing this music, this concert that you put together, Electric Miles, at Jazz and Lincoln Center, which is a place not necessarily known for presenting electric music? Did it feel awkward, or, how did you put this concert together, and why did you put this concert together to be played at Jazz and Lincoln Center?
Well, I'll tell you something, man. I was honored because I'll tell you, you just laid it out. Jazz at Lincoln Center is not known for presenting electric music, but they were doing a tribute to Miles that lasted a number of days. And I don't know this for sure, but what it felt like was they were like, well, we have to address this period of Miles that we might not necessarily love, but if we're gonna present it, and we do feel obligated to present it, there's one guy that I think we could go to present it in a way that would make sense. And so they call me. At least that's the way I digested that call, knowing their history and knowing where Winton's coming from and all that. I just felt like, okay, you know what? Uh, I'm honored that they think that I'm the one who could present this. So
And
what I did,
100% correct.
hmm,
100% correct.
it felt like, wow, that's they really want to do this. You know what I mean? So I called a band, Christian, put together a band of guys that I thought could really well represent this period. You know, um, I started off with Alex Bailey. He's my drummer in my band. Very talented drummer, very wide. He swings. He can play James Brown. He can play hip hop. You know what I mean? And I needed somebody like that because I knew at some point in this recreation of Electric Miles from music from the 70s and 80s, I'm going to want to update it somewhere in
Yes.
there. You know what I mean? So to have
Right.
somebody who can go all those places was important. And then Vernon Reed, who plays guitar. Everybody knows Vernon Reed for In Living Color, but Vernon Reed, if you don't know, he's a complete musician. He and I started back in the fusion days playing fusion. And see, the thing about fusion was if your hero was Stanley Clark or your hero was Jaco Pastorius, or on guitar, if your hero was Pat Martino, who was doing electric stuff at the time, you would sit there and learn these solos that they played. Try your best to learn their solos. But then you
Right.
said to yourself, okay, I know the notes, but I don't know why. And then someone would eventually say to you, that's because you got to learn jazz. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so then we would all throw ourselves, you know, completely into straight ahead jazz to learn the language, with the intent of being better fusion players. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Yeah.
And of course, once you start playing straight ahead, you fall in love with that. Sometimes you never make it back to fusion. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what happened. Vernon Reed, man, he's playing jazz. He's playing, we're from Brooklyn, from New York, so we're playing African music, we're playing Caribbean music, we have Caribbean roots. We're playing Latino music. The stuff they call
Yeah.
salsa. You know what I mean? We're playing everything,
Playing
and so
everything.
you had
Yeah.
to be a complete musician coming up when we did. So Vernon Reed on guitar was perfect because he's also a fan of that specific period of Miles's music. Pete Cozy, and
Exactly.
Reggie Lucas and the guys who played guitar with Miles during, and John McLaughlin. And
Right.
so Vernon was a of course, and then I had the real young cats. I had Brett Williams on keyboards, and I had Alex Hahn,
He's a monster. Brett is
tremendous
awesome.
musicians, tremendous. So I said, I need you to live with this music for a month before we start. Just put it on and get into the vibe. And then I told them about the environment. I said, this is the 60s, the end of the 60s, And I said, everything was open, everything was being challenged. On piano, you're supposed to go, these guys are playing like real funky stuff, like James Brown stuff. What do I do? I'm Chick Corea or I'm Keith Jarrett. Well, I'm going to add some of my European harmonies on top of this. You know what I mean? But not 17th century European harmonies. I'm going to add some Bartok. I'm going to add some Stravinsky up in here. You know what I mean? With improvisation, with jazz, and that combination was important. So I told my young musicians, I need you to think about that and listen. And by the time, man, we had like a day of rehearsal, 2 days of rehearsal. By the time we got there, the cats, their hair was longer when they got to rehearsal. They were ready to go. So it's really cool. And then the last element, of course, was the trumpet. And Russell Gunn,
Yeah.
uh, he first made his mark with Branford Marsalis and Branford's Buckshot LaFunk group, which was kind of a fusion hip hop group. But Russell's roots go very, very deep. And then Marquise Hill, who also played in my band, they switch off, depending on availability. Marquise Hill, who's younger from Chicago, is a beast too. So I had Marquise living with that music. Russell knew it already. Russell came with his effects. Miles was playing his trumpet through wah wah pedals and digital delays and all kinds of electronic effects. So I had both of them, and I thought it would really be cool to hear one guy and then hear the other guy, each interpret what Miles was doing in that period.
And
In
of course, Russell has the hometown thread to Miles as well, being
Russell's
from
from
East
East
St.
St.
Louis.
Louis, so you know, he's got an official card. You know what
Yeah,
I
right.
mean? He can do that whenever he wants.
Exactly, exactly. My last question for you, brother, is what does it mean to you to be playing this music right now?
It's funny, you never know when you're making music, especially if you're making what they call contemporary music. If you're making music that involves the elements that are popular right now, like if you're making music, improvisational music with hip hop beats, you never know how that music's going to be judged in the future. 10 years, 20 years. Either it's going to sound dated, oh, that sounds like the 80s, or it's going to sound classic, you know, or
Right,
sometimes
right,
both. You know
right.
what I mean? It's clearly the 80s, but it's still got a vibe, but you never know. And so it's really interesting to see that what Miles was doing in the 70s, there was a period when nobody would even talk about it. It was completely rejected. Then all of a sudden, the hip hop generation came in and they go, yo, man, that's dope. That's
Right,
dope right there. Listen to that,
right,
And they start
right.
sampling stuff from that and they start using that as a reference point, man. So as you get older, man, you start to see that you really have no control. All you can do is be honest in the moment, make the music that feels right for you, and then you got to let the chips fall. And that's how Miles lived. So it's really great to see people interested in
Yes.
this period of Miles.
Yeah, yeah. Also want you to give a shout out to Mino Sinelu, who I believe played on this concert as well.
So yeah,
Miles
forgive me,
alum.
man, for forgetting about Mino because Mino and I, that was a special connection. You know what I mean? Um, we played in Miles's band together.
Right.
Mino didn't play on the Man with the Horn, but very soon after the record was done, Mino came and he was in the band when I was in the band, and we toured together for a couple of years. So he had his own story, coming from Martinique and his own kind of. Not only did he have to figure out what Miles was saying, he had to figure out what words Miles was saying because he was just getting his English together. You know what I
Right.
mean? In the same way that I grew, Mino grew. I mean, Mino was like very young. He's maybe 22, 23 years old. And then now, he's a fully developed musician. So to have him there was incredible. He was kind of like the glue for the whole band. You know what I mean? And really happy that he agreed to do this with me.
That's amazing, man. Well, I look forward to getting into this concert, and I know our listeners can't wait to hear it as well. Marcus Miller, again, you are a national treasure, my friend.
From one national treasure to the other. Thank you, man.
I look forward to seeing you in person and
Yes.
giving you that big old hug.
Yes, man. Congratulations, man, on everything you're doing, man. Very proud, man.
Vice versa, man. Thanks for carving the path out.
There you go.
Enjoy the show, everyone.
We're going from the late 60s into the 70s, so 69, you know your hair was about starting to let it grow a little bit, right? And by 73, you was full blown out, afro, and you were 4 inches taller because you were wearing those platform shoes, right? Black lights, civil rights, hippies, all sorts of stuff going on, Woodstock. And Miles Davis was like, man, my music needs to reflect these times. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do some reflecting, okay?
playing the trumpet. They thought I was an accident. But it don't go like that. You can't explain that to them. That doesn't bother me.
One of the masters of the music in the century, Mr. Miles Davis.
I know who to pick for certain styles. The band we have now, everybody's correct for the style we play. That's what I was looking for. The line isn't wrong until you after you put the next one down. Music is the same way. Anyway, what else? I gotta go.
Okay, thank you for this conversation.
All right.
One of the masters of the music in the century. Everybody knows this gentleman, Mr. Miles Davis.
After a couple of years with Miles as his bass player, I left for a couple of years and then came back to compose music and produce music for Miles. And I came up with this song for Miles. They called me up, they said, Miles wants to do something different. I said, what do you mean different? They said, contemporary. I don't know what contemporary means. But I did my version of what I thought was contemporary. So what I did, I said Miles right now is like 60 years old, which at the time seemed very old. Right now it doesn't quite seem as old as it did. But I figured old Miles needed something that would combine all these amazing periods of his life. You know what I'm saying? Wanted to put it all together, wrap it up. So I know there was one beat that Miles liked. He called it a New Orleans 2-beat. I'm sure that's not the name of it, but that's what he called it. Let us hear that beat, come on. Okay, let's just hear the drums, give it to the drums. Hold on, just the drums. Y'all hear that? See how it bounces? Miles like that. He used to go like this. Okay, so then, hold up. I need a bass line that looked like the way Miles would look at you. He would scowl at you. And even though he was scowling, if he liked it, he'd go. I wanted to dedicate this song to Mr. Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu. I said, Miles, do you mind if we dedicate this to Bishop Tutu? He said, all right. The song came out. Some people hated it. People at Lincoln Center hated it. A lot of people love this thing, man. So check this out. I was doing an interview in South Africa. I was about to come and play a concert there. And the interviewer said, what does it feel like, Marcus, to have made one of the most important musical contributions to our struggle against apartheid? I said, man, we about to do a concert, so I guess we better practice Tutu. Bishop Desmond Tutu sent a note of thanks to Miles Davis. Miles called me up and said, Marcus, you gotta come look at this letter. They said, thank you so much, Mr. Miles Davis, for your contribution to our struggle. Miles said, what do you think about that? I said, where's my letter? Marquise, give it a little bit of Miles, a little bit of flavor. Oh, there we go. Let's hear the intro. Come on, Alex. Nino Sino on the percussion. Brett Williams on the keyboard, y'all. One more time. Marquise Hill on the trumpet. Alex Hahn, saxophone. Russell Gunn, trumpet. And yours truly, Marcus Miller. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's an honor. Thank you, Miles. We love you forever. We'll see you again soon. God bless. Bye-bye.